Hello and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, hi, I'm Cassie. If it's not, thanks for always tuning into my videos. Today I'm going to be recommending you books based on the Jar of Inspiration. If you don't know, on my TBR game, Snakes and TBR Stacks, which is a Snakes and Ladders inspired TBR game, I have one spot on it that's inspired by. And when I land on that, I have to pick a little note thingy from this cup/jar and pick a book based on whatever I'm inspired by. It's really vague, it's really fun, and it's just like really random. And I just have a really good time trying to like stretch my inspiration to match the books. But I figured we would do a little recommendation video and make it a little bit more fun with this. I have a couple little things. I think I'm going to pull about 5 and we will see where it goes from there. Okay, the first one. The last thing I ate was tacos. I just had taco time, so I had tacos and tater tots. Mexican food. Okay, so, you know what? It's hard. I think I'm gonna go with the David Bad trilogy for this. Hear me out. Okay, when I eat tacos, I think like hot weather. Like I'm eating them in Mexico. I'm eating them just somewhere where it's really hot, and I live in a really cold place. So I'm thinking hot weather, deserts, so dryness. I also think that when I'm eating tacos, I get really thirsty because they're really salty and greasy, and I need water. And in a desert, you can't find water. These are set out in Cairo, and it's a very desert setting, Mediterranean-like setting. I know Mexican and Mediterranean are not the same thing, but like I stretched, okay? I stretched. The David Bad trilogy is one of my favorite all-time trilogies. It is so good. It starts with City of Brass, which I don't currently have, my friend has. In City of Brass in the David Bad trilogy, you are following 2 POVs. The first one being Nari, who is just like a little human girl trying to make her like living the best way she knows, and this might be through scamming some people slightly. And then she accidentally does some magic and calls down a deva to her, and this deva tells her that she is actually the long lost descendant of the old ruling family of a city called Devabad. The city of Devabad is where all the devas live, and that although she is half human, half deva, she must go there because now that they know that she's a descendant, she will never be safe, and the city of Devabad is the only place that's safe for her. So it's her journey there, and then it's her journey in Devabad trying to figure out like the politics and what this means, because technically she's supposed to be ruling it based on her bloodline, okay? And then you're following a second POV, which is the second son to the current king of Devabad. And he's kind of like the problem son. He doesn't really agree with all his family beliefs. He doesn't agree with lots of things. And he's like morally really good. And so he is really, you're following his POV, which is like a struggle between doing what he thinks is right and following like his parents and what they tell him is right. In Ali's point of view, you are getting a lot of the political scheming of the world, where in Nari's point of view, you're getting a lot of the world building point of view, which works really well because Nari's learning the world as you are. So I feel like it's really spelled out to you in her POVs, but then you're getting a little bit more of an in-depth look at it in Ali's POVs because he grew up there. And so it's not explained to you as much in those, but like you're still getting like hints of pieces and like just like the tensions going on in the city. I really loved this series. It was my favorite read of last year. 5 stars across the board for all of these. Highly recommend. It's so good. There's something so special about this. It's good for plot-driven readers, world-driven readers, character-driven readers, like anything. Like this has it all. It's so good. I will be reading anything that this author comes out with. That really hurt my arm. I'm not strong enough to lift those heavy books up for so long. This one says inspired by the word of the day. Let's look that up. The word of the day is bamboozle on the Merriam-Webster dictionary. Oh god. Guys, I have like one major pick for this, but I feel like everyone talks about it. Like everyone talks about it. So like I don't want to, because like if I were going to recommend you something for bamboozle, it's probably going to be like a heist. So like Six of Crows or The Final Empire. Everyone talks about those. You know what? I'm going to recommend you Foundry Side by Robert Jackson Bennett. If you liked Six of Crows, if you liked The Final Empire, I think that you'll like Foundry Side. Foundry Side follows a girl who has the ability to read objects. So in this world, there's like a magic system that lets you make objects think that they're something that they're not by writing like symbols on them. So let's say you took this cup, you can write on it saying that you are going down. When I drop you, you're going to be going so fast and that you're like at the speed of light. And then it'll drop at the speed of light, like, and be like heavy. That was a really bad example. She learns that she can kind of read objects by touching them, being around them, and they kind of talk to her. And what happens is she finds a magic key. This key is like an animal companion type key. It talks to her, and he's so funny. His name's Clef, and he's like the best part of this book. It's literally why I'm recommending this to you. So she finds this key that starts to talk to her, and she gets herself in a lot of trouble, and then has to get herself out of this trouble, but ends up getting herself in more trouble because she ends up going on a huge, gigantic heist. I did enjoy this book. I haven't continued the series yet, so I've only read the first book, but I do know the last book in this series comes out this year. I think there's 3 books, maybe 4. So it will be a completed series at the end of this year. It's always nice to be able to read a completed series. And yeah, like, I did enjoy the heist aspect in this. In my personal ranking, I have Six of Crows here, Foundry Side here, and Final Empire here. So I think that Foundry Side does some really good things wonderful, but it doesn't do like the found family aspect as wonderful as like Six of Crows and Final Empire does. But I find the magic system like really unique, like the Final Empire magic system is, and that's what kind of beat Six of Crows out for it. So I definitely do recommend this one, and you know, they're literally bamboozling everyone because they're going on heists. So I think that this works so well for the word of the day. Oh, bamboozle, that's a good one. Okay, our third pick. Oh god, this is a big piece of paper. The last word of the last chapter you read. I need to go get my book. Give me a second. Okay, so I'm currently reading Near the Bone, and I'm on chapter 12, just started. The last 2 words I'm saying are we are, because I don't think I could make are work, but the last 2 sentences are we are. You know what? I'm gonna say that this has to be a book. So for me, if I was to stretch this, it would be a book about more than one person. We are doing something kind of like we are. So I'm gonna pick a book with a lot of characters and a cast of characters that has a lot to do with each other. Who would have thought? Legacy of Ash by Matthew Ward. I've also only read the first book in this trilogy, but I do own the next 2, and I can't wait to read them. This is so hard to tell people about, so I don't know why I picked this. It is a full cast of characters. It's not like different POVs per chapter, but every chapter has lots of POVs. Like you'll have like 2 paragraphs of a POV and then switch another POV. The chapters, what I really enjoyed is that they have to do with the whatever's happening in that chapter will get multiple POVs from the different sides that all have something to do with what happened in that chapter. And I really enjoyed that, and I feel like it made this really chunky book flow really quickly. Legacy of Ash is following the kids that aren't really kids anymore of the past rebellion's leader who was murdered and the rebellion failed. And it's them kind of struggling because right now they are like war criminals and they're in jail essentially, a nicer jail than jail. I really can't explain this. I'm gonna read the back. A shadow has fallen over the Tressian Republic, but as Tressia fails, heroes rise. Victor Akedra is the Republic's champion, a warrior without equal. He also hides a secret that would see him burned as a heretic. Jossary Trellin is Victor's sworn enemy, a political prisoner. He dreams of reigniting his mother's failed rebellion. Kaelin Trellin, Jossary's sister, seeks only to break free of their tarnished legacy, to escape the expectations and prejudice that haunt their family name. As war spreads across the Republic, they must set aside their differences in order to save their homeland. However, decades of bad blood are not easily forgotten, and victory will demand a darker price for any of them than could have imagined. I picked this book up off of a cover buy and ended up really, really, really enjoying it. I will say there's a good, it starts off really good, and then it does get, really slow for probably 150, 200 pages, and then all of a sudden, it gets so good, and you can't put it down. I hate saying this, but with chunky fantasies, it is a thing. I do think that if you take the time and you push through that slumpy bit that's just set up, the slump, I now, if I were to reread, wouldn't think it's slumpy because it mattered so much for what happens later. Like, it's setup. It's so good. And if you like politics, if you like battle, because there is like a good 200 pages of battle in this, and I love a military fantasy, you'll like it. The politics, the lore, like the magic is based on like their religion and their lore and their mythology, and I think that was really unique about it. And it's just so good. Just want more people to read it, because I feel like no one ever talks about it, so you should read it. I need to do 2 more before my sprint's up. Okay, next one is The Last Drink You Had. I'm technically drinking 2 things currently. I'm drinking root beer and coffee, but I'm gonna go off of, I could do either. I have finished root beer, but I haven't finished my coffee, so I guess I should do coffee. I'm struggling. I need to think, I think. Okay, with coffee. I think with coffee, you're drinking it to stay up, to get yourself re-energized, and I think graphic novel for some reason for this. Okay, so I'm thinking saga, because like if you're in a readathon, you pick up, or you're in a slump, you pick up a graphic novel to get you like energized, to get that like adrenaline, the caffeine high from finishing a short book. So saga. This is just a sci-fi fantasy graphic novel series. I've only read the first one. I do own the second. I do want to continue. It's kind of like a Romeo and Juliet, but in space, and they have a baby type vibes, and it's so good. Please be warned for content warnings. There is naked things happening. Lots of violence, swearing. I love the art style in it. It's so good. I really do need to continue this because I did enjoy this. So I also read this literally. I just read a couple pages every morning with my coffee. That's how I tend to read graphic novels in the summer. Outside on the patio, I would just read my graphic novel and drink my coffee. So it really does remind me of coffee. If you are wanting to get into graphic novels, I think that this is a really good one to start because it's just so in-depth. Like, this feels like a chunky fantasy in graphic novel form. Okay, last one. And then I have to go to my sprints. Pris. This is for Pris. Lily. Pris chose this prompt. And I put it in this jar. So if you all know, Pris has a cat named Lily. She's really cute. She likes to show her butthole on sprints a lot. And she just deserves to be the center of attention. So I need to pick a book based on Lily. And you know what? I have a couple ideas. I have 2 ideas for this. I have Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb and Spellslinger by Sebastian de Castell. Assassin's Apprentice, heavy fantasy. It's the first book in the realm of the Elderlings. You shouldn't need a reason to read this, but I'm giving you one. It's so good. The reason I'm picking this is although cats are not in it, the magic system has a lot to do with animals and bonding to animals, and there are lots of animal companions throughout the realm of the Elderlings. Yeah, I don't know if you don't know what this series is about. I don't know what I wish I was you so that I could pick this book up for the very first time because it's so good. It follows Fitz Farseer, who is the bastard son to the current king in waiting. When they find out his father decides to give up the throne and pretty much give up all his titles. And since he has a bastard son, the current king decides that he needs to use him and kind of make an ally out of him before anyone else can, and before he can kind of claim that he has rights to the throne. So he becomes the assassin for the king, and honestly, it's a really just like sad journey, but it's so good. It hurts so good following Fitz's journey. My other choice is Spellslinger by Sebastian de Castell. I gave this book 3 stars. Like, I didn't love it, but I do know people who do. And if you like a little bit of a YA fantasy, a little bit lighter than like Robin Hobb, I definitely would recommend this to you. With Spellslinger, you are following Kellen, who is trying to get his, like, mage's badge. And in this world, if you can't complete the trials, you end up kind of like a servant to the mage. It's just you're following Kellen, and he's struggling with magic, so he's really worried about facing that exile and kind of becoming that, like, servant when he meets a traveling person, and this person changes his kind of outlook and view on life. But in this book, we do have another animal companion. He's called a squirrel cat, so he is a cat. He is kind of more what you picture a cat to be. He's sassy, he doesn't want to listen to you, and he's funny. I personally didn't overly love the squirrel cat, but I also don't overly love Kellen. And but I do know that I feel like there's going to be so much growth in this book. And again, he is a pretty good, like, idea of what a cat, I think, that could talk would say to me. So I feel like this could be Lily in book form. This was a fun prompt. Yeah, I don't know if I did this justice explaining it. Sebastian de Castell does have a very interesting writing style. It's very comedic. It's breaking that fourth wall. This was on my most disappointing books of the year because I thought I was going to love it, but I still gave it 3 stars. I'm still going to be continuing the series. I still enjoyed it, and as someone who is growing out of YA, if you are more into YA, I think that this is a strong, strong contender for you to like. And there we have it. There are a couple book recommendations for you based on the jar of inspiration. If you liked this video, let me know. Also, I'm always looking for more ideas to put into this little jar. So if you have any, please leave them in the comments below. And if you just want to leave a comment to say you were here, but you have no idea what to say, leave me a cat emoji because of Lily. Have a wonderful day. If you'd like to connect with me on other platforms, my Bookstagram, my book Twitter, my Goodreads, and my beauty channel are all linked in the description bar below. I would love to chat books with you on other platforms. Have a wonderful day.